This is a little preface to this video, to Black Heavyweight. Part of the issue is that, that I'll just want to make clear right away, is you say a lot of things like, oh, when you talk about the white race, people get upset, and like you're uber racist. I'm not doing that. So here's an idea. If you think white people ought to react a certain way too, and they're all some sort of thing in a real group you believe in, doesn't matter what their real ethnicity is, doesn't matter if my ethnicity is the same as Mitt Romney, and we're both white, fine. Then you might want to take, and when you find one white person that doesn't take what you're saying that way, you might want to promote that by engaging with it rather than just going, oh, forget that, so what, most white, blah, 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 because that just means, yeah, okay, then you want to rant on those things. You're not really complaining how white people take things, right? Because you want to ignore individuals that are, quote-unquote, following the kind of advice you were allegedly giving. You want to ignore those individuals, right? But it is, the world is really made of individuals. So maybe you should be, you know, when you find one that is being that way, maybe you just acknowledge it because they are that way, instead of trying to argue, well, that doesn't really count. And if you're going to be productive, if the issue is you're going to be judged by how much you solve this problem, if you might want to consider that since you and I agree that they created the ghetto problem, I go into it a little bit in the video. Maybe they did that in Europe, you know, I don't know, a couple thousand years earlier, kind of have our number down pat, we poor white people. This is a response to Black Heavyweight and kind of also just about the issue that he provokes. I mean, I think some of you will have seen Black Heavyweight's comments and may be familiar with them, I don't know. So I'll put a link to the video I'm replying to. So it's an interesting situation. Various things going on. One is his evident view of me. Two is racial issues. You know, he talks about, like, for example, he's like, he doesn't want to be in alliance with me, which I see our politics are very similar in a lot of ways. But, like, if he sees some problem in the system and I'm like, and blames it on whites, because they've been in control of this system, this particular system. And it's like, I agree we should change that. He's like, well, he can't trust whites like me, middle-class whites, because we should get our act together. If we can't even rule ourselves properly. Like, I'm supposed to join with Mitt Romney or something. Like, you know, I should expect to be able to have a political alliance with other ethnicities. But first I got to get Newt Gingrich on board. When Newt Gingrich and I have it all worked out between ourselves, then maybe he'll consider. So this is the picture. You got to learn some world history. You know, Black Heavyweight, you mentioned that the problems of the ghetto were put there, a lot of them. You can absolutely see that. Look in the Tulsa riot. Tulsa, where the black part of town started to do good on its own in its isolation. There was a big riot. They just burnt it to the ground. The whites. All of the white people. No, I guarantee you there were white people who thought that was disgusting. I guarantee you there were white people that went down there to the markets and did business with African Americans, because we've always been around. And if you look for it, we've been trying to get our freedom for thousands of years. You could blame us for being unable to do it. But to blame all of us for being complicit, you're missing the point. Those that are complicit, they're fooled into it the same way I think you're fooled into it. You and me are supposed to be fighting each other. I just happened to read The Prince this weekend. by Machiavelli. You know, and this is something he talks about over and over. Powerful people need to divide groups of people that are and keep their power individually as parts lesser than his power. Altogether, they can always destroy the king, even an unarmed populace. If it were to unite, they're just not very likely to because they're more naturally divided. And you know, we've been oppressed by this Machiavellian way of doing things, at least from the Romans, right? So my ancestors have been enslaved and peasantified by these people for thousands of years. Okay, maybe it's not realistic to think that we have the solution alone, right? Maybe the newcomers to the oppression system, the rest of the world, is going to have to, you know, but I can't help. I could tell you how these fuckers run it. Okay, you call me middle class. Well, I don't know. I had a single mom. My dad still lives off the grid. My family's lumberjacks and drywallers, and that's the modern version. Before that, they packed fish, just lived off the fish. I myself had no help going to college, had to work a job to pay my own way through college. And my career that provides my living, thank you very much, I'm allowed to have one. It isn't even related directly to that degree, okay? And yet I'm still someone that say, yeah, you know, as a white male, you know, I'm complicit in the society. But guess what? That goes for everybody. Do you pay taxes? Okay, so you're helping to oppress the Iraqis too. It sucks to be us, okay? Because we don't want to do those things. We got to figure out a way to stop them. And your idea that, no, have racial unity, it makes no sense, okay? One of my grandmothers is dirt poor. Patchwork clothes. Hillbilly from North Carolina. And a quarter Cherokee. It's my ancestry. We're supposed to solve the Theodore Roosevelts. We're supposed to take these white families that made millions and millions of dollars selling opium to the Chinese immorally and illegally. We're supposed to have their number, right? Why is that? Why are we supposed to be able to do that? They've had our number for thousands of years, you know, and they've had it really good. I think you ought to be looking for a way out of it, right? The history of slavery is the history of war. We've all been slaves. That's part of the problem. The Romans had been slaves, right? If you get taken over by a foreign army, whether you're put on the plantation, you know, you are a slave. You are treated like a slave, and you are a slave. And people live under this for centuries. And all the Europeans did it to each other. But more importantly, within a country, they've always done it to their peasants, you know. When Theodore Roosevelt started dealing with Japan and stuff, he was surprised at how they felt, their ruling classes felt like they were in partnership with all the classes working to do things. Whereas the European ideas, that's the rabble. You just use them, you know. You foment their simple-minded angers to help you attack a baron you're against, and then he's your ally, and you get him upset about something else. Yeah, I blame people that they fall for those kinds of tricks, but not just based on their ethnicity. Anybody that falls for that, anybody that isn't looking above that, because that's how they're controlling us. It's not that complicated, really. There's a lot more people out there say they don't want to be controlled than fucking actually do something about paying attention to how the control works. You know, your complaints to me, he's doing this, just talking about hypotheticals all the time. Well, these aren't hypotheticals. Just because I don't force all you guys to absolutely agree. Maybe it's because I can't, because it's the internet and you're all fooling yourself when you think that's what you're trying to do with everybody else. I would spread my ideas. And look, I'm willing to share my ideas Whether you take it or not, that's up to you. But they're actual, especially the things I've been saying on this channel. But it's a lot like, oh, talk about something more important. Because, frankly, in terms of political action, this talking, to me, it's like celebrity gossip. Real political action is go out, find out who runs your county. They spend hundreds of millions of dollars and they waste them. Okay, and they're right there. But it's as if people say, talk of substance. Talk about substance. They mean political positions. Well, I came to the... I've always talked about and followed politics. I still do. For like 6 years, I did nothing of this sort except for political blogging. I did my philosophy writing just to myself like I normally do. I don't feel I have to share every part of myself. Or not. It's up to me. And this is a very self-oriented, I'm doing what I feel like now. I'm not. And I felt when I was political blogging that, yeah, it's just that people don't even know who their local fucking county council person is. Their local county or city, depending. Usually city, I always think county here because we don't have cities, we have a county. It's like the mayor of the county is the island. But these municipalities, they spend hundreds of millions of dollars a year. These people don't even know who they are. And then yet they spend hours a day arguing about national politics. It's a celebrity thing. It's the Us magazine of politics. And people don't analyze that national politics well because they don't think well. So I decided just to talk philosophy because it helps people think better. But I'm not here to teach you my way of thinking. I will explain it. People are welcome to adapt it, take it, ignore it, whatever. But I think that it's like if we're all on the beach and I throw you a ball, hey, catch. I'm not teaching you how to catch, but you will get exercise. You come up here, and I'm allowed to say, hey, catch. Right? And I think we need some fundamental things, some fundamental understandings, because we use a lot of fallacies. And to me, it's the most obvious thing that the Machiavellian class knows to divide the masses. And one of the ways they do it, nationalism. One of the ways they do it, racism. One of the ways they do it, just all kinds of fear. And appealing to people's simplistic, group-oriented thinking. Okay, I'm an 8th Polynesian. I'm a 16th Cherokee. Granted, the rest is probably Scotch and English. My family left England because we were peasants and we were oppressed and we weren't allowed to believe what we wanted or really achieve. We were in a class system, thousands of year old class system. Not good enough, huh? We were trying to escape that stuff. What the fuck do you want? Seems like a big problem. Okay. The problem is kinds of people. I hate to break it to you, but there's Machiavellians in your race. Black heavyweight. There's Machiavellians in every race, and they're a minority, and yet they understand how to divide the rest of us down into small enough pieces that they can bully us all around as a group like a bunch of fucking sheep. Okay? And I think you're acting like a sheep. You don't need to ally with me, but it's obvious to me. Sometimes we agree on things. You don't see the agreement because it's like, well, it's white versus black. And yet, it's funny. I don't see you as racist. I must be deluding myself. You say very racist things, but maybe they're just racial. I don't know. My impression, you usually do back down and take individuals, and there's, it's not that you don't respect any whites or you think all black people are perfect. Obviously not. And yet, when push comes to shove, you're always back to this, you know, white man's burden stuff you're talking about. You don't seem to realize there's poor, oppressed Europeans. It's been that way the whole time, meaning for centuries and centuries before they started to take it abroad. And that they got that way because the Romans did it to them. And the Etruscans did it to the Romans, and it might go back to Babylon, invented this proprietorship, this principality kind of approach. And in the end, to solve it, we're going to have to get past it and look at it as evolution. Like, wow, that's a messy way to go about it. But then again, it was just kind of evolution happening on its own. If we can straighten up the system, if we can have developed values by now to know how we want to run things, we don't have to run things the way they did. We don't have to solve the solution to them dividing us with stupid ideas like nationalism by having better nationalism. We need to get rid of all of those frameworks and those ideas, and that's why I talk about philosophy. People's metaphors, they need to think, they need to exercise thinking at the level beneath your political metaphors where you can change them, because if you want the world to change, you have to change the metaphors you use to think about the world. You're like, no, I already know it should be this way. I'm doing fine with how I'm thinking. No, you're not fitting in with the solution unless you invent new metaphors. You're not the only person out there. If you think you see the system, come up with metaphors that other people can use to shine a light and get the views of the system that you think you have. Now, if you think, oh, well, I've seen that it all breaks down into ethnic unity, and you know, you should do for your own people and organize before this and that. It's like, no, it doesn't. That's the wrong metaphor. That's the slave metaphor they've been using to keep us down. The French hating the British and blah, blah, blah. German royalty coming over and ruling England, and the royalty thinks they're a different race, man. They think they're a different species, right, from us, from the rabble. We're just fodder. We're just human resource. And I'm supposed to join with them to prove to you that I can organize things. I haven't had a chance to organize things in this society